for Nikki A Writing Universe. Hi, Nikki.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good. Happy to be
Excited?
here. Yes, I am actually.
Cool, cool, cool. So, for part four, we're gonna learn all about your writing. You have created multiple series, interconnected standalones, spin offs, and stories with collaborative worlds. What draws you to interconnected storytelling?
Honestly, it's because I want to know more about the side characters or the supporting characters, and that tends to happen. As you're writing the story, you start to fall in love with everybody around them too, and you want to know, well, why are they like that? What makes them this way?
Mm-hmm.
Why? You just want to know everything about them too. So it's the questions about the supporting characters that ends up leading to other stories.
Wow, amazing. So, how do you keep track of all your characters' relationships, timelines, and connections? I mean, you have a lot of them.
That's an understatement. It's kind of funny because so The Unforgettable Summer was my first book, as you know. And
Yeah.
when I first wrote that book, I thought it was going to be a standalone book. I didn't think it was going to keep going and going and going. But as I'm writing, when I got done with it, I'm like, I absolutely need to know this other character's story.
Hmm.
And if you've read the book, you know you even if you didn't read any of the other books and you haven't looked at what they are, you know exactly who I'm talking about because there
Yeah.
is a character that you have to know about. You're
Yeah.
like they deserve to have a story. What is it? So so that led to that, and then there was still a lot of questions I had in some of the other characters, and then I'm like, no, I just need to write all of these, and I just
Hmm.
kept going, and um, then I had fans that inspired the
Yeah.
other, one of them. It's so I wasn't originally planning on doing that. It's just you have to, like I said in the first when I answered the first question, you have to know about these other characters. And so I actually had to go back into the books to do some research on my own characters
Oh my
to
God.
and then make notes. But I do now have documents and stuff with the different books, the different series.
Hmm.
If there's different characters that have a spin-off from a
Hmm.
series, I'll have that mentioned and what series it leads into. And I do have documents with different notes. I have tables. I think the hardest one to keep track of though is the names.
Okay.
And I learned that after being into my first series because I'm like, oh my gosh, in the first book, I thought it was going to be a standalone, and I accidentally named two characters in the first book, but they were nothing characters. I
Yeah.
barely even mentioned, and they happened to have the same name, and then they both ended up with their own stories. So it's kind of like, okay, I didn't realize I did that. Now I got to keep better track of this. So
Hmm.
that's one of the hardest things to keep track of because you have so many people that you mention just because you think about it when you're in life you come across so many different people
Yeah.
and so yeah there's different people that you work with, there's different people in your families, your friends, your common connections, and then you have two sides of it. It's a lot.
Hmm.
So the names is probably the hardest one to keep track of. And there will be duplicate names just like there is in life. It just is going to happen. But, you do your best.
Cool. That's so awesome.
I do. After also having so many books too, I did build a character journal um, that I created that I am eventually going to make available for people too, if you want something like that. But it's really good to have because then it breaks down the different characters, the relationships, and things like that as well. So that's helpful.
Okay, cool. Cool. So, do you plan your universes in advance or do they grow organically as you write?
My writing in general is very organic. Like I said, when I started writing the first book, I wasn't planning on it was going to be a standalone. I tend to do that with everything.
Hmm.
Um, Mending Shattered Hearts is a break off from Unforgettable Mistakes, book
Hmm.
6 in the Unforgettable series. But it's, a character that was mentioned but you never actually met in the series
Mm-hmm.
because he wasn't around. Um, and so I started doing those with. I decided at that point that I was going to do different series with also different locations as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you do see some crossover with the series too, um, in more than one book. So you do have that, but then again, there are two. I'll have ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and right now I have a lot planned. Let's just say that.
That's super amazing. So, on that note, how do you decide when a story should become part of a series?
Um, when I'm writing, I feel like there's certain characters that will stand out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's usually a sibling or a best friend, or
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it was a love interest that didn't work out. And there's ones that I feel very drawn to that I absolutely have to know their story. I want to know the rest of it, and that's when I know they're going to be part of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Then I do have other ones that I'm curious about, but they're not like urgent, like must need to know. And
Yeah.
those characters I tend to put on the back burner. And then as many of you know who have gotten to know my writing, I have been invited to different anthologies and things like that for different purposes, whether it be different holidays or
Mm-hmm.
for charity or different things like that. And when you're doing something like that, you're writing a novella or, something a lot shorter, and you're not able to get the full length novel. So sometimes those stories of the characters that are on the back burner are perfect for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to pull them in, and still connect, somebody with the stories, but they're not necessarily um, the ones that I thought at first were like, oh my gosh, I need to know about them.
Mm-hmm.
But then I
There,
always really enjoy those stories too. So
yeah, that's so cool. There's a question from the audience. It has something to do with the Lost Princess. How did you think of that? Was it part of the anthology that you thought of it, or you had that already in your head?
well, there's a lot of fairy tales that I've always been somewhat inspired by. Little Mermaid is obviously one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Rapunzel is another one. Beauty and the Beast is another one. Cinderella. Those are probably my top ones. Even going back to Sleeping Beauty, I mean, I have different ideas that I've always thought about with those,
Mm-hmm.
but I never necessarily thought they would become anything. I've always, I have notes. I do have some scenes,
Mm-hmm.
that I've written with parts of each of those.
Mm-hmm.
But, and again, it's just inspired by,
Yeah.
not a retelling, um, to be clear. So what happened is the reason it actually ended up coming about is because I was asked to be part of the charity anthology that was a romantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Danielle Paquette Harvey had asked me to be a part of it. She's a romantasy author, and she said, I absolutely love your writing.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could do amazing things in romantasy, and I really would love for you to be a part of this anthology if
Mm-hmm.
you would be willing to step into that genre. And I'm like, well, yeah, sure, I'd love to. And it's for a great cause. Why not?
Yeah.
So it's, I feel like a lot of times some of those little things will actually
Mm-hmm.
challenge me and push me in a direction that, I kind of was interested in going, but I wouldn't necessarily have gone right away unless I got the push.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So, since we're talking about writing in general, what comes first for you? Is it the character, the plot, the setting, or the emotional theme?
It's different every time. It doesn't necessarily come like that for me. Like there will be, like I said, a character that I have to know about.
Mm-hmm.
And I take what I already know about them from a different book, and we'll transport it. Or maybe there will be a place I go to that I'm, oh my gosh, I need this in a scene. This is
Mm-hmm.
perfect for this kind of scene. And you picture a situation, or you picture a situation and the emotions and everything that go along with it, and then everything else builds. And it's really different every single time.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's nice. So, how do you make each book feel complete while still connecting it to a larger world?
Um, I believe the best way to do that is each book is about different characters.
Mm-hmm.
So their story ends. Obviously not completely, they do you do have their happy ending. Or at least happy for now.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to worry about leaving on a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
My romantasy series will be different. That is the only one that will be different. Everything else, which is the Lost Princess, that one does leave you on a cliffhanger. But everything else is a standalone novel and will be
Mm-hmm.
read individually.
Awesome. So, do your characters ever surprise you and take the story somewhere you didn't expect?
Absolutely. And you want to know what that happens all the time. You have ideas in your head where you want something to go, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, how did I end up over here? I didn't think this would happen. I didn't even picture this or imagine this. Where did this come from? It happens all the time. And honestly, I always go with what's natural. I don't like to force anything because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
the story's not as good when you force it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I need it. I need things to come organically and naturally with the characters as well as they do in life. Um, and if you look at, I guess, a character that surprised me the most, I think, would probably be Dean from the Unforgettable series.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get his book until book 7, and he was in all the books before that. And um, I would build little things about him throughout each of the books, and a lot of he's definitely misunderstood, but you see things, and you kind of a lot of people will assume he's one way, and then as you get to know him, when he finally does have a story, you realize it's not exactly what you think it is. So there's a lot more to him than you expect.
Yeah, I remember Dean, the character. I was always wondering, oh, we need to watch out for him. And then, when we read the last book in the series, I was like, whoa, that was a huge shock. How much of yourself do you see in your characters?
I think there's a piece of yourself in every single one of your characters, but that doesn't mean that's who you are. Um, I think it's just, I mean, because it all comes from me in some
Mm-hmm.
way, so they're 100% a piece of me. But there's not a single character that is me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the closest thing would probably be Samantha from Finding Home,
Mm-hmm.
and that's more to do with the dealing with how the adoption process and finding your birth parents, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's probably the closest. But that is not my story. My story is different from hers, even though
Mm.
I'm adopted. That character's adopted. You do the search, but it's she's probably the closest to me. But none of them are me. But every single character, male and female, has a piece of me
Mm.
in some
Awesome.
way.
That's great. This is from one of the viewers. Apparently they see you with so many green jumpers. Is that your favorite color? I don't know what this has to do with writing.
That's okay. Green is actually my favorite color, but I tend to wear a lot of greens and blues, especially green because of my eyes. My eyes are green, but sometimes they will look blue depending on
Hmm.
I don't know, the day or what I'm wearing. So
Okay,
they tend to look very bright green when I wear green, and I like that.
cool. Awesome. And the final question for this part is if you had to describe the feeling of Nikki A. Lamer's books without mentioning genre, tropes, or plot, how would you describe it?
The books take you on a roller coaster of emotions. Um, and you will be satisfied with satisfied at the end of the book.
So that was the end of part four. How did you find the questions, Nikki?
This one was a lot of fun. I mean, they all are, but I really enjoyed it. It's fun thinking about how everything came to be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Awesome. So, if you're interested in tuning in for part five, which you should be because part five is the Unforgettable series. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.